All right, finally, you're on the move. You've done so much preparation and planning, and you've thought so much about where you want to go and what you can do, and all that stuff that goes along with booking your trip, planning your trip, and making it happen. Now we're going. Okay, so we're within 24 hours, the day of. We're going to go through what to prepare for, what to look out for, and how to make sure that your anxiety is in check the entire way. So within 24 hours, you can check in. Check into your flight online. Probably a good idea. If you have checked baggage, you can pay for it online as well and just merely drop it off at the check-in counter when you get to your flight provider. Stretch the night before. Stretching is huge. You're going to be spending a lot of time on a plane, sitting in airports, traveling. Your hamstrings are going to get tight. Your muscles are going to get tight. Stretch. It's very beneficial. Stay hydrated. Drink a lot of water. You know, as you get closer to your flight, maybe tone it back a little bit. But hydration is one of the most critical elements for staying healthy on your trip. And then also it's important for flushing your body out for all the germs as well. So hydration is probably the most important thing, honestly, you can do to keep your head right, stay healthy for your trip. Pack the day before. I used to do this religiously, but now that I'm getting so seasoned in traveling, I might pack the day of, depending on where we're going. But usually, still, I'll do a 2 day packing session to make sure I don't forget anything. And rest up. Get as good a sleep as possible. It might not be practical for you, but I recommend getting your head right. It takes a number of different things to happen at once, and good proper rest is important. So you're within 24 hours. It's back to the basics and get ready for your fun trip. Of course, eating healthy, eating a well balanced diet is important. You don't want to get drunk the night before your flight and have to deal with a hangover first thing, obviously, right? And that's happened. People get nervous, and sometimes a good way to combat nervousness and anxiety is with alcohol. And that's I don't take pharmaceuticals. I never have. Hopefully, I never will. But I do drink, and I've gotten drunk before a flight, like the night before even. And maybe it was like celebration out of excitement, going on a surf trip to wherever and woo, and then wake up hungover. It's a horrible way to start your trip. So be healthy, you know, be conscious of what you're putting in your body. Again, stretch, breathe, relax, double check your luggage, arrange for your ride to the airport, give yourself ample time. For international flights, they say 2.5 hours to 3 hours, depending on where you're going. For domestic flights, an hour. You know your home airport better than anybody else, than any other airport. And depending on where you fly out of, you'll figure out if it's a huge international airport, give yourself more time. Expect more complications. If it's a smaller airport, it's usually more streamlined, but still give yourself time. Like, it sucks starting off a trip stressed out. If you don't schedule yourself right, if you don't give yourself enough time, like rushing, like I would much rather have an extra 45 minutes to sit and do nothing at an airport than get there with 5 minutes to spare and potentially miss my flight. Because you get there in a nervous, hasty type of mindset. It's just you're already going to be on high alert, and we're here to conquer your anxiety. So you want to be very calm. You want to be as relaxed as possible and don't be rushed. So arrange for your ride, give yourself plenty of time, stretch, hydrate, eat well, relax, double check your luggage. If you follow the instructions, you have all that you need, you're packed well, and you're going to be fine. So get ready to get on the flight. So, of course, you're going to the airport. Check your bag if needed. Like I said, don't check a bag if you can get around it, but chances are, you'll have one bag in your group at least. So give yourself time just to go to the automatic kiosk and get your printout. Getting through security, if you haven't done this before, it can be frustrating. Even now, like when I went through security in Shanghai a couple months ago, I read reviews about the staff at Shanghai Airport that they were a little rude toward Americans, and I kind of felt that. I felt like when I was going through security, they could have done a better job, but still, you're in their domain, and they're dealing with thousands and thousands of people. So getting through security for them, they just want to make sure it's done well. You know, if they're gonna make your day a little bit harder because you're an American, or you're just, you know, whatever, for whatever it is, let it roll right off your back. You know, don't carry that stuff with you. I could have been like, oh, that Chinese security lady just was really mean to me, and I don't like that kind of service and behavior, and I could have let that upset me, but I just said, you know what, who cares? You know, I got through it. You know, she was a little bit rough, a little bit disrespectful. Who cares? I didn't make it a scene, so I got through it. So when you go through security, just relax. Deal with the rat race. You know, you got to take your shoes off. You got to go through the X-ray machine. You got to deal with the line. It's frantic. It's a hassle. Everyone's trying to get all their stuff into the bins, through security, through the body check, and on the other side, and get regathered to go as quick as possible. Everyone's just trying to navigate this whole security issue. TSA is a mess. So just relax about it. You know, don't let it be a point of frustration. Don't treat it as anything differently. You know, I've never, fortunately, had a negative airport experience where I had to get like pulled aside and get questioned. I've been through some situations that were a little bit sketchy, but ultimately it just worked out fine. You know, if you don't give attitude, if you just kind of acquiesce and go through the motions and go through security and do what they tell you, and don't give any mean looks and don't give any attitude, you're going to be fine. You know, chances are you're getting angry at a TSA official or getting at security in the airport does nothing for you. You have no power. You are totally helpless. You really can't do much. If they start violating your civil rights, hopefully people notice and start filming it, but that's incredibly rare. I do know that in some other countries, there are some other issues. We'll go through that when we arrive at the new country or the new place of where we're going. But really, when you're going through your domestic security checks, just relax and follow instructions, and you don't have to worry about too much. Once you're through security, you get to your terminal. You know, you can be at a big airport, and it could be a pain in the butt. You could be at a small airport, and you can literally be past security and to your departure gate within 2 minutes. So it's going to depend. International flights, chances are you're at a bigger airport. You know, there are some airports that, you know, you have to take a shuttle to your departure gate or to your terminal. Plan for that. You know, look at when you book your flight, when you're getting to the airport, look at, you know, what gate are you, what terminal are you, and then do a little bit of research in the airport to see, you know, how you get to that terminal. Some places like Denver International have underground trains. Some places like Dulles Airport in Washington D.C. have terminal shuttles. You just don't know. So make sure that you do your research and understand what you have to prepare for and how much time you're going to need to make your connections, make your flight, get to your terminal on time, and make sure you can get to your departure gate without having to stress yourself out. And now you're in it. Like you're, the moment has arrived. Like you're getting on the plane and you're about to go. Like this can be just the most frustrating, scary, anxiety part of the whole trip. Seriously. And then, you know, when you're about to get on the plane, I hear people say this all the time. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm going here. And they're like, oh, how long of a flight is it? And I'm like, that's like a 12-hour flight. Like, oh my God, I could never do a 12-hour flight. And I used to be like, yeah, I could never do it either. And then I'm like, you know, wait a minute. Like, people sit in an office at a desk in a cubicle all day for 8 hours. Like, every day, routinely, 5 or 6 days a week. People sit their butts down at a desk and barely move. They might get up and go to the bathroom and get up and get some water and come back. How is a plane different? Like I get the obvious, like you're flying somewhere versus you're sitting at a desk, you know, somewhere by your home. But if you can sit at a desk every day for 8 hours and think nothing of it, who gives a crap if you're sitting on a plane for 8 hours? It's not that big of a deal. Like when you compare it, eight hours on a flight isn't shit. It's not. But people think about it like 8 hours on a flight is just so crazy. It's like, well, not really. 8 hours sitting at your desk all day is crazy too then. Well, no, it's not because it's in my office. Well, it's just perspective. It doesn't matter. You know, like these are just little tricks you can use when you're like, oh God, a 10-hour flight's nuts. It's like, no, it's not. A 10-hour flight is like working a long day at the office. It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. So don't let this long flight get the better of you. Oh man, 10 hours on a plane is so nuts. It's not. It's not. And realize that this will be over soon. So, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in detail because this is one of my biggest approaches that I used, that I developed for myself, that has helped me get through so much anxiety. And a lot of this anxiety was like in college when I was doing presentations, right? Because I dropped out of college at 19, and the main reason why I didn't finish the one class that I had kept throughout the semester, I made it all the way to the final class, and I had a presentation to give. And I was so nervous and had so much anxiety about my presentation, I just dropped the class. And it was so weak. I bowed out. I totally failed. And I got back into college at 25, and I had to start doing presentations again. And it terrified me. I was calling my dad, Dad, I have a presentation to do. I'm freaking out. What do I do? And I worked through it over the years. But then after about 2 years of doing presentations, I realized this. I realized no matter what happens during my presentation, there's going to be a point in time after the presentation that I'll be looking back at the presentation that already happened. I realized no matter how scared I get, no matter how gnarly my nerves are, there's going to be a point in time later that night where I'm sleeping and that presentation's in the past. So all this buildup and all this frustration and all this anxiety that I had developed over the years about giving presentations, I realized it was stupid. Because no matter what happens, that's going to be done. That presentation will have passed. And there'll be a point, an hour or two later, I'm laying in bed and I'm reflecting on my presentation, thinking, how did I do? Did I mix up words? Did I say the wrong word? Did I talk too fast? Was I nervous? Did I look stupid? Did I make the points I wanted to? And I'll reflect on it, and I realize, like, no matter what I do building up to it, no matter what I do while I'm doing it, there's going to be an after time where that's over with. And the same thing with your flight. There will be a time, not long, from the moment you get on that plane, that flight will be the past. And it'll be over soon. No matter what you do, there's going to be a future, a life on the other side of that plane ride. Of course, if I had a heart attack during my presentation, well, then there wouldn't be an after presentation moment to reflect back on it. But the odds of that are nearly impossible. Same with getting in a plane, a flight, a plane accident, a plane crash. It's pretty much not going to happen. So realize 10 hours on a flight, oh God, it's so much. No, it's not. 10 hours on a flight is nothing, and no matter what you do, no matter how much anxiety you have, no matter how much worry you go through, no matter how much you prepare, it will be over soon too. People sit in solitary confinement in prisons for years, stuck in hell. Many of them get out, go on with their life. This is nothing. 8 hours on a plane, 10 hours on a plane, 12 hours on a plane is nothing. It's a long work day sitting at your desk, and it will be over no matter what. So just relax. Use the tools and tactics and instructions that we've gone through, and your flight is no big deal. It's not a big deal. Realize that. It's nothing. And before you know it, your flight will become enjoyable. I promise it has for me. While you're in the air, there are some very important things to keep in mind. Me, I always have water. Like, water is critical for me. Like, water is my little, along with my comfort pillow, water is I'm okay, for whatever reason. I like having water with me. Maybe, I've always had, like, tonsil issues. I still have my tonsils, and I've been told by doctors that I kind of have a small, throat, a small passageway, and I think because of that, it's easier for me to, like, have food get stuck in my throat. So the sensation of choking to death is a little more prevalent for me. And if I have water, I know I can wash it down. That might be my little trigger and how I deal with it all. You might have different things, but I always keep water on me so I can always stay hydrated. If I'm nibbling on a snack and I get something stuck on my throat, I can wash it down. And it's just my little feel good. I don't need food. Give me water. I can do a 12-hour flight without eating as long as I have water, right? For water, use a plastic bottle. I'll get like a plastic bottle, and I'll drink the contents before I go through security, so I'm hydrated. Then I'll squish it down, throw it in my bag. After security, I'll expand it, fill it with water, take it on the plane. I know they say that reusing plastic bottles isn't the best thing because you can get plastic leaching into your water. So they have collapsible silicone bottles that I recommend, and they're designed just for this. They're silicone bottles that are designed for traveling. You collapse them when you don't have anything in them. When you're going through security, you expand them, you fill it with water, and then you have your permanent plastic bottle essentially. I do always pack food. I pack a little travel sack. Airport food is expensive, and in-flight food can be not good. It can be good, it cannot be good. You only get in-flight food when they give it to you. You can always ask for snacks and a drink, but really, it's pretty regimented. I like having my own food, high quality, nutritious, healthy, tasty food. Beef jerky if you're into that kind of thing. Travel bars, trail mix, whatever I've seen people do. Believe it or not, hard boiled eggs. I mean, whatever is good for you. Essentially, a dense food that has a lot of nutrients and is healthy that you can pack and that is preservable is the best. But have some food with you. Just as this is about anxiety. Just to have your anxiety in check. If the food sucks, a lot of Asian airlines have some pretty gnarly food. I won't even eat it a lot of the time, so I know I have food just in case. If you're a drinker, drink smart. I am a drinker, and it's important for me to not drink too much because drinking will, if you overdrink, it'll make your nerves worse, it'll make your anxiety worse, and it'll dehydrate you and make you more susceptible to getting sick. So I like a couple of cocktails on a flight, but I usually keep it at that. That way, none of the things happen that I just mentioned. My anxiety stays in check. I get to relax a little bit. It might help me fall asleep, and I don't get dehydrated and get sick. Obviously, there's etiquette in planes like anywhere else. Be mindful of others. Everybody in the plane, for the most part, 99.99% of the time, they all have the same goal in mind. Get to where they're going with as little bit of hassle as possible and safely, and move on with life. Everybody on the plane wants the same thing. From my experience, I've never had a flight where anybody on the flight acted outrageously or belligerently. I've seen people drunk that were loud and obnoxious, but they usually get reminded quickly that they're being loud and obnoxious and to shut up. So chances are that'll be your experience as well. So like I said, I feel like when there's a middle seat, the people in the middle, I think that they have kind of like not a right, but they've earned the two armrests. So I'll give the armrest in the middle away to the person in the middle. Like I said, if I'm in the middle seat and I don't, people don't always do that. They don't always, recognize or appreciate that. So it is what it is. You can't get butt hurt. You can't get, offended. Just kind of got to let things roll off your back and be as comfortable as you can. Keep it cool and realize that this will be over soon. And 10 hours on a plane is really nothing. And they're going to pamper you to some extent. Every international flight that I've been on has, in-seat entertainment. They have cocktails. They have food, and everything you need is there. You're not in jail. You're not in the hospital, hurt or dying or sick. You're on a plane, and there's food, there's drink, there's bathrooms. You can get up and do what you want. It's not that bad. It's really not that bad. And a lot of people I talk to, flying is a big deal for them. And I just, I use these tactics to let them know that it's not really a big deal. And then, of course, jet lag. We talked about it before. Like what I've read, the common belief is that the best way to eliminate jet lag is the minute you get on your flight, you depart, you put your clock or your watch on the time of the place you're going to, and then you just set your schedule to that. Easier said than done. Use melatonin to go to sleep if you need to. Maybe caffeine to stay awake if you need to, but of course, too much caffeine can get your anxiety jacked up as well as your nerves. So be careful with that. But be mindful when you get on your plane. Say, okay, it's 9 p.m. here. It's 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. where I'm going. What do I need to do to get my body clock as close to the arrival time as necessary, so your jet lag is minimized? But other than that, sit back and relax. It's a flight. Enjoy the friendly skies, right? Beautiful views, and usually a pretty good experience. Some noteworthy mentions while you are flying. These are things that I've heard before, and I just thought they'd be worth to mention because they might be of value for you. I've been told not to drink the in-flight coffee because they use the water, basically the plain water that's not filtered. It's not dirty water, but it's not necessarily filtered and clean water. And I've been told by people that work on flights, work on airplanes, try to avoid the coffee. So that being said, I don't know what your approach is to that, but same goes for ice on an airplane. I think it's the same water they use for the coffee. And like I said, it's not dirty water. It's not gray water, obviously, but it's not necessarily clean and filtered water, and it could get you sick if you're not careful or you're just not lucky. Again, nasal spray might not be something that you even use normally or you're aware of or thinking about, but keeping those sinuses moist can greatly increase your ability to stay healthy. So just keep that in mind. And then what to touch and what not to touch. I mentioned the hand sanitizer earlier, I think in the last lesson. And the bottom line is that planes can be filthy. Like filthy, because you have just so many people from so many different places. There's a germ circus. There's just germs from every country and place and person and background. And you want to avoid those. Like, I think exposure to germs for the most part is healthy. It helps people's immune system get stronger, but at the same time, overwhelming your body with germs or certain germs from certain areas can totally destroy your immune system. So what we got in the common practice of doing now, when we get into a plane, especially a long haul international flight, use the hand sanitizer, and I'll wipe my hands down, and I'll either have a napkin and I'll put my hand sanitizer on the napkin and use it as a wipe, or I'll have like handy wipes and I'll wipe down the screen in the seat in front of me, the in-flight entertainment, because that can be very dirty. People are always touching it. Some are touch screen. Some people put their head on it and rest, so you could have like head cooties or whatever. So I wipe down the in-flight screen in front of me. If there's a remote, I wipe down the remote as well, because a lot of those in-flight entertainment systems have a remote with a cord attached to it, and I make sure that I do that as well. And then the armrest, the buttons that people use to recline their seat, I wipe down the armrest and the buttons. And then if I'm on a window seat, I'll wipe down the window itself and just the interior, because I'm going to put my head on there, I'm going to rest on there, my hand's going to touch it. So basically anything that you're going to touch when you sit down in your chair and you're ready for takeoff, whatever you can touch, wipe it down, right? And if it might be easier to get, like I said, handy wipes, sanitation wipes that are already like saturated, so you can just pull them out and wipe down. Worst case scenario, get some napkins, get your hand sanitizer, and do the same thing. And this is just a small way to reduce your exposure to germs, but ultimately your goal here is to have a nice, relaxing, fun trip and stay healthy, and whatever you can do to mitigate the potential risks is a good idea. You've made it through your flight. It wasn't that bad. See, told you. 10-hour flight, sucks, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad at all. Especially when you think about it and you compare it to sitting in an office chair all day. It's nothing different than you normally do. People don't realize that, but seriously, it is the same thing. But now you're descending, and the flight staff might be handing you documents. Generally, there are 2 documents that you're going to receive every time you fly into a new country. The first one will be a customs declaration form, and this is for the country you're going to. That they want to know if you're bringing in any, contraband, goods they don't approve of, or goods they think needs to be scrutinized. So they're going to give you a customs declaration form, and they're going to ask you what you're bringing into the country. And usually you check no on everything and then give it to them and you're fine. They check for things like, have you been around farm animals? Are you potentially, smuggling by accident insects or pests or whatever? Do you have food? Do you have fruits and vegetables for the same reason? Do you have an excessive amount of money, right? Usually it's around 10,000 US dollars. They want to know if you're smuggling money, right? Not that it's illegal. They want to make sure that they're trying to eliminate that for whatever reason. And, it's a pretty simple form. The declaration form, I think almost every country has it. You might not have to fill it out if you're just going on a layover, if you're passing through, but you might as well. I think most of the time I have had to. When you get to your destination, or if you have a layover that's overnight and you're leaving the airport and coming back through the airport, they're going to also give you some kind of, passenger travel card. and it's going to have two portions, right? So as you arrive, as you descend and get closer to your destination, you're going to fill it out, and your name, your passport number, where you're staying. And then when you get off the plane and go through customs and immigration, they're going to tear off one half and stamp the other half. And you have to keep that other half because that's verification of you entering the country. And when you go to depart, they're going to want that slip, and they're going to check your fingerprint, and they're going to do all these things, and take a photo picture of you, and they want to have that card because it verifies that you've been analyzed, and you went through the immigration control when you got there, and you can verify who you are, and then you can leave. And that's something that most every country is going to have. So don't be surprised by these documents. I know at first it can kind of be alarming, and you're like, what do I do? Like, what do I fill out? How do I deal with these? Am I this? Am I that? Am I okay? Like, did I mess up? It's not a big deal. If you lose one, they'll help you out, but don't try just do it, submit it. And when you get your second half of your visitor permit card, put it with your passport, because it's essentially going to go with you. When they check your passport, they're going to want to see your stamped half of your visitor permit card. So keep it with your passport. Chances are you won't lose it. And then again, you're arriving, right? You just done this long flight, 10-hour flight, and 10, 8, 12, 13-hour flight, whatever. And you're tired, you're nervous, you're anxious, you're going to land in a new country. From my experience, usually when I land in a new country, it's chaos. I mean, it's usually more chaotic than anywhere I go to in the U.S., really. I mean, other countries are different. It's just a trip. Bottom line, and they're different in so many ways. So relax, meditate, don't worry about it, and just, you're doing it, you're in it. There's no going back now. There's no going back. So just relax. Just relax and know that you've done all you can, and millions of people do this every year, and they're fine, and you're going to be fine. And you got, my instruction and my help, and chances are you have people at home that know where you're at, and you're all set up. So just relax and go through the motions and be proud of yourself. Again, lesson 5 summary time. Pretty straightforward, right? It's time to go. Rest well, eat well, think well. Positive thoughts, meditation, breathing exercises, stretch. Take care of your body. It'll take care of your mind. Make your whole life much easier. Check it online if you can, so you have the time. If you don't have a bag, you're checked in, you have your boarding pass, whether it's on your phone or on the paper, you got it, you're set, you can go. If you need to drop off your luggage beforehand, give yourself time. Pay online if you can, then you just go, you print out your baggage sticker, essentially, and then hand it off and go. Get ready for the airport rat race. Sometimes the airport can be a breeze. Sometimes it can be a pain in the butt. Here's the thing about that. Even at its worst, when the airport is like the worst it can be, like barring from like crazy, gnarly, almost impossible terrorist attack, which is never going to happen. Not going to happen to you. It's not going to happen. Don't worry about that stuff. But the worst that's going to happen in the airport is long lines and standing around for a couple hours. That's it. All this worry and concern about security and long lines and blah, 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 blah. What is it all about? It's just, all it means is you have to stand around for 2 hours longer. It's nothing. It's nothing, people. Get comfortable on your flight, relax, stay calm, utilize the sanitation methods and tools that I talked about just to give yourself a little better chance of staying healthy, and then prepare to begin for your adventure, because the minute you land, you're in for a treat. So get ready. And of course, homework. Now we're going to do some visualization techniques here. Imagine yourself on the flight. Imagine everything is perfect. Imagine you have a good seat that's comfortable, that's someone you trust, that you like. You're talking to people, you're making friends. Your nerves are just totally legit and calm, no anxiety. Be excited about what you're doing. Like you're doing it now. Like you're doing it. For me, it was 5 years of paralysis before I could travel. 5 years of wanting to do something and putting it off because of my fear and my anxiety. On that plane, I'm like, yeah, you're doing it. You're building. You're moving forward. You're pushing yourself. You should be proud, and you should be proud too. So no more bad worst case scenario. No more bad energy. It's all positivity. Again, breathing exercises. 10 in, 10 out, into the nose, out through the mouth. Fill up all three chambers of your air, upper lung, diaphragm, stomach, and meditate. And you're good to go. That's it.